The motivation was pretty much sort of doing something with my mind. You know, like when you've had a big trawler all your life, you know, like you're forever thinking about the weather, the boat, the nets, what you're going to fish for the next day. So when you end up sitting there and you're trying to think of something to do, well, all of a sudden it did start to come, like these stories started to come to me, and it was maybe my mind trying to do something for itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. That's really cool.
So we actually grew up here as kids at the boat shed, and we sort of progressed from little boats, hire boats and things, into ultimately the trawler that I had, that I sold about 15 years ago. And you know, we've raised our family here. Like I've got grandkids now that come and help me actually fill it in the shop. And you know, it's, I think, 5th generation that's here at the boat shed now. So this has been a great place for us to grow up in Bateman's Bay, and a lot of inspiration for things.
Yeah, nice, nice.
Yes, well, it was an interesting process. Even when I was fishing, I did get a short part of a story. It was, you know, I'd watch my son try and ride his sister's big bike, and it looked so humorous, but I'd had a night of sleep deprivation, and it sort of triggered all these bizarre dreams. So when I was coming home, like in the early morning, in the dark, I just had this dream of my son, Daniel at the time, riding a push bike in the ocean. And so when I come home, it sort of fell together as a rhyme. Yeah. And then I ended up putting that together as a book later on. Daniel's push bike. Yeah. Yeah. And his mother came from New Zealand, so we actually put it into a little story where it's not his mother that he's missing, but his father that he's missing, and he goes on an adventure to ride across the ocean to see his father. So that's where that story came from. So it ended up being the Island in the Mist, which is a bit of a link to you know, New Zealand. I actually went through a bit of a funny stage, you know, like where I did get terribly depressed after selling the trawler, a bit like a farmer losing the farm, I think. Yeah. But then, you know, the money that we had, we lost it in the GFC, so it triggered a really bizarre time for me, and I ended up leaving and living out in the bush, and I had a little red dog with me, and she used to sit on front of the motorbike and ride along with me, and a couple of times she looked back at me as if to say, well, come on, I can ride better than this. So I put, Lady was the little dog's name, so I put her, and we made it the two dogs, red and blue, like riding the motorbikes. Oh, Bella, but we used to camp out in the bush at Runniford, and all the little sugar gliders used to come down to us, and you know, in the night time, and get their little serving of jam or honey or something. So and it was a cold and windy night, so the story actually came about her, and I've always wanted to write a story about the bush games, and we thought, well, this little Bella, she's going to go to the bush games, and she's a marvellous jumper, but she goes out to the bush games and takes on Big Red, the big red kangaroo, in the games. And anyway, Big Red has his long jump, he jumps his 15 metres. Bella walks up to the line, she walks in millimetres, but then she runs up a tree, jumps off the last tree limb, and glides and beats Big Red's long jump. Like, it's not technically right, but it's the animal's bush game. So she actually wins the jumping contest against Big Red. Yeah. But then it goes on, little Bella, she goes on to the other events and watches the other events. And then finally at the end of it, she takes off and goes back home. Yeah.
Nice, nice.
Yeah. But it was quite a lovely little story. And so we just made it about our little Bella. Hopefully, like what we've done now with our 10 or so little books is use those for the seed to grow Gumnut. You know, I'd like to see us go into like short story animations and things like that. I'll write a story, but when you see the art that, say, Renee and Joseph will do, like it makes something special. And it's actually a proud thing to sort of be part of that process. But we're to the spot now in time where we can put the whole thing together ourselves, and we can sit there with our artists, our creators of, putting the book together and work out and all have input into it. So it's not just me, like it's the artists that sort of, I feel, make the book something special now.
Yeah, that's it. Not one without the other as well.
Yes, exactly. I get such a thrill, like when I get parents that'll ring up and say, look, our little kid can't stop reading this book. And this happens, like quite a bit. And it really is a thrill. And yes, I would like to leave a legacy of, say, we've got our 10 little books done now. Like when I'm gone, like my time's, it's limited when you get to my age, but it's, like trying to get as much done as we can, leave a legacy so that our children do have the opportunity, like some of them become artists and, writers or, but we've actually sort of bridged that place where we can actually do it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand, yeah.
When we actually get the physical copy of the new book, it gets delivered for us to open up and have a look at.
Yeah.
That's a real thrill. But yes, like to get people, I had one couple rang from Canberra. We're in Batemans Bay.
Yeah.
And they said their little boy had dropped his Mad Dog's book in the bath. Could they drive down and get another book? And I thought, well, that was lovely.
Yeah.
Like just little things like that.
Yeah, that's nice.
I've written these books like for everyone. Like if later on when you hear, say, Mad Dogs or, a story like that, you'll see there's sort of humour there that's adult humour, like, well, when I say adult, I mean in a nice way. Like it's, red looks at blue, blue looks at red, and a puzzle question enters the head. If blue is like red and as red, then why is he called blue instead?
Yeah.
Now that's sort of like a thing from the past,
Yeah.
Where they call, a red-headed person Bluey.
Yeah.
And it throws a little bit of something in where parents can have a little bit of a laugh and read it with their kids and say, Grandpa, what's this? What's a contraption? Or what's, this or that.
Yeah.
It is. We've had the best life here in Batemans Bay. Like, as you see, we're at the boat shed. We moved here and lived in the boat shed as kids when I was 3 years old. So we always were around boats, the ocean, swimming, but also to my grandfather. He was a World War I veteran. He was a timberman. So as kids, a lot of the time we'd go out in the bush, and it gave us a love for not only the ocean, but the bush as well. So a lot of our stories come from the beauty of the bush and the beauty of the ocean. And having the brain that's sort of functioning on like fishing and having nets and boats and fuel and weather and tides and everything else, your brain still had to work. So that's where it went in and sort of flipped over and started writing stories.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
We say that now. I've got 4 children, 2 boys, 2 girls. They're beautiful. My oldest son does the art for some of the books. My youngest daughter actually did the characters for the haunted house. And now we've got Renee, my partner's daughter. She's doing art for us. She's doing The Fire now, which is a new story. The Fire, I was living out in the bush during the bushfire time, 2019-20. And when the fire came through out there, I was there on my own just with a dog, a big dog, and it was quite an experience. But I'd written this fire story before the fires actually even went through. And when it came through, like I've got some beautiful photographs of this massive fire, but I wouldn't change the story that I actually wrote, because we'd seen fires before, but not an intense one like that. But that's where we're up to now with our new book, The Fire.
Yeah. Nice.